Hello everyone, I'm Simon Bridges and welcome to today's webinar on resilience skills brought to you in partnership with business.govt.nz. We've been fortunate enough to hear from Dr. Lucy Hone in our first episode of the series, and in upcoming episodes we'll hear from a range of other exceptional speakers, including David Downs, William Pike, Abbas Nazari, Kai Carter France, and Jazz Thornton. But for episode 2, we have a special guest with us, the creator of our most popular article, I think ever, on the First Steps website, Tim Kavermann. Tim will be sharing his personal experience with burnout and anxiety and offering valuable insights into the importance of resilience in business. In his article, Burnout, Depression and Recovery, he spoke openly about his experiences and offered insight and help for small business owners experiencing burnout and related symptoms. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Tim Kavermann to the webinar. Tim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm excited and somewhat nervous to be here, actually.
No, don't be nervous. It's this is not meant to create any anxiety. We're going to find tools and ways to sort of think about it.
Exactly.
Point. Hey, I mean, I've got a sense of you, although we've only just met now in this way. For those who don't know you or your story, hey, just give us a sense of who you are, Tim, and you know, what you do with yourself.
All right. I'm Tim Kavermann, obviously. I live in Auckland on the North Shore. I've, from a business point of view, run my own creative studio for over a decade now, and started off doing brand design, logos, identities, that sort of stuff, right through to now where I do web design, brand strategy, and all the other branding stuff as well. I sort of built it up over 5 years, and then the most recent 5 years is when I really sort of kicked it into gear and turned it into a you know, quite a thriving business. And now I'm sort of at the point where I've positioned myself where I just work with a couple of brands that I am really invested in and really care about, that I guess share my values and things like that. And that's actually something I'll touch on probably during this conversation, but it was sort of learning to take all the work I could get and do everything and everything, through to now where I've refined it down to doing the work I really care about. So yeah, and then outside of work, I've got a few passion projects which are based around sort of adventure and mental health, and a podcast I'm slowly building as well, which is also based around mental health. So it's sort of a topic, I guess, that because of my own experiences is quite important to me, and it's something I've always wanted to do something in the field of, whether it's work or a personal project on the side of work. It's sort of morphing into one at the moment.
Great. And if I got this, I might be barking up entirely the wrong tree. You also a keen hunter, or have I made that up?
I wouldn't say. Yeah, I do a bit of hunting. I'm pretty new to it. Hunting and spearfishing is something I took up a few years ago. More so the spearfishing, just through some friends of mine to, again, I'll touch on this probably during this conversation, but to find something to do with myself that wasn't work. Ironically, I turned some of it into work, but yeah, the hunting is something I'm very novice at, very new at. I've been lucky enough to get some really good sort of mentoring from a couple of good friends. But again, it's just something that is the polar opposite of sitting, you know, here on my computer, which I've found hard, but also quite healthy at times.
Fantastic. I've got a similar story, I think, around that. But anyway, so yeah. Look, I said, you know, in the intro, and it's right, you know, your article for First Steps, you know, really, if I can say this, went off, you know, and it's obviously because it resonated with a lot of people. I know in that article you do a bit of this. I mean, give us a sense. What's the term resilience mean to you, and how would you define it?
For me personally, and I think it would be quite similar for most people. I think my personal resilience comes down to, and I'd say it probably relates to my business and personal life, it comes down to being able to go through really hard times and keep doing what I'm doing, whether that is something business related or personally. And I guess I should say that some days I don't actually feel very resilient, but then there's days where I'm like, yeah, like that was a good day and I did something really hard. And every day will be different. I think some days something really hard could be doing something like this or giving a big presentation, versus some days when you're not feeling so great, something really hard could be just, sitting at your computer and doing your work. So it's whether it's a big thing or a small thing, it will look different for everyone. But I think the ability to just keep cracking at it, especially in business, when you're as a business owner, to just keep cracking away at it, that's where the resilience comes in.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I know you have. I mean, tell us about your experience of pressure, anxiety, or burnout as a small business owner.
It's something I can probably compress into one communicating at once, but it's actually happened to me, now that I look back on it, I reckon 3 times over the period that I've run my own business.
Which is how long, Tim?
So it'd be over 10 years now, but to be honest, it started in about 2019, 2020. And that was pre-COVID. That was pre a lot of things actually, but I think it got to a point for me where, well, actually, sorry, to describe what happened, I woke up one day with a headache, and it was after quite a period of really hard, stressful work. And at the time, it didn't occur to me that they were related, but the headache I hadn't really experienced one like it before. It was just a real dull sort of annoyance that lasted weeks. And it got to the point where I went and saw the doctor and sort of said, look, I've got this headache that's not going away. And I was imagining all sorts of terrible things, and sort of got all the medical tests done. This was probably over the space of about 3 weeks. I was trying to find a medical reason for it.
Right.
And long story short, there wasn't one. It was, and it kept getting worse, and it sort of turned into fatigue. It got to a point where some days I'd wake up and I literally, like, having a shower was really, really hard work. And that went on for quite a while. Just every day, almost new symptoms sort of popped up, and I was still convinced there was something medically wrong with me. So I had tests redone, and they were still the doctor was like, literally, medically you're in really good shape. And then there was one day coming into Christmas, and it would have been 2020, I think, where I had a big sort of celebratory lunch I had to go to for the end of year with clients and things like that. And it had been weighing on me for about a month that I just wasn't in the mood to do something like that. And that particular day I still don't even know what you call it. It was some sort of episode. I sort of passed out is probably the closest thing you could say to it, and just had some sort of little breakdown and drove myself down to the A&E, and once again got all the tests done and had a big chat to the doctor there, who was actually awesome. And he actually said, Tim, I think you need, I think this is an emotional thing. I don't think it's a medical thing. I think you need to address your lifestyle. I think you need to talk to someone. I think you need to accept the fact that these doctors have told you it's not a medical thing, and actually look at other areas. So that particular day was sort of quite an eye-opener for me. And I've sort of, as a preface to this, I've experienced what I think clinically would be generalized anxiety for most of my adult life. Right. And this was just another layer on top of it. Right. So
this was at a level worse though, right?
Yeah, it was a lot worse, to be honest. And that's why I was convinced that I had a brain tumor or something like that, because I was like, there's no way this is like, I know what anxiety feels like, and it can be terrible and debilitating, but this was like so physical. So anyway, after that day at the A&E, I actually, because it was Christmas, I pretty much just stopped working and gave myself some time, did some spearfishing, did a lot of lying on the couch, a lot of resting, got through the holidays, and literally within a week of being away from my computer and away from clients and away from work, the brain fog started to clear, and the headache started to go away, and I started to get energy back. And the more I hung out with friends and did stuff outside, it actually, it got way better. And the other thing I'd done during this period, which I hadn't realized that I think would be pretty common, is because I felt so awful, I'd completely isolated myself. I'd stopped going to events. I'd stopped hanging out with friends. I'd changed all my meetings to Zoom ones so I didn't have to deal with people, just because I didn't want them to see me what I thought they would see me, feeling so bad. And yeah, it I guess there's the saying, sort of, I don't think I hit rock bottom, but when you hit a crisis point, that's sort of a really good time to make some changes, and it's sort of an indicator. And this is what I now know, that actually I didn't have a tumor, or I didn't have an illness. It was actually my body, and probably more so my mind, telling me that if I continued doing what I was doing, that I was going to fall apart. And it was a hard thing to deal with, because in my mind I had to do that or my business would fail. But in fact, it was quite the opposite. I was sort of sabotaging my business by putting myself in that situation.
So you, I think one of the things really interesting about what you have just told me is, you didn't just snap out. It wasn't like, oh, well, I'll take a Panadol and harden up, and that's going to be the answer here. You rested, you had some time out, and I mean, you sort of told us in a bunch of ways, but I mean, yeah, what were the changes that you did to get into, again, not in an instant, but over time, into a better place than you'd been?
Yeah, so there's a couple of standout ones. I think for everyone it would be different, but for me, the first thing I did was, because I've got a therapist that I've seen for years and years and years. She's amazing. Went and saw her and sort of discussed what had been going on, and even doing that made a huge difference. I find personally that when I can get everything out, it really takes some of the power away from what you're feeling. And then sorry, I'm having a mind blank.
Well, did you, one thing I was interested in, Tim, what you said, so were there, and that's great advice, right? I mean, I think what I'm hearing from you, resilience is not a, snap out of it. It's a journey. You're not going to be universally amazing every day. No one is.
No, and that was the thing.
Help.
Yeah, get help. And I took the pressure off myself. I stopped saying yes to every single project I was offered, and I started doing work that I really connected with and cared about, because I think the biggest thing I was struggling with, I was putting so much effort into work that actually I didn't really care about, and it was all for money. It was a financial decision that, to keep my business afloat, I have to do this. But the stress and pressure of putting that much time and effort into something that you don't really connect with just takes its toll. So, 3 or 4 years on from this, and it's happened again, exactly the same things happened to me twice more. And it's that time to reflect and say, okay, what work am I doing? Is it the right work? Am I doing it for the money, or am I doing it because I care about it? And of course, running a business, there is the financial factor, but I think also being a business owner, you have the perk of being able to choose who you do and don't work with. But yeah, seeing a therapist was the big one for me, and then changing the type of work I was doing and the amount of work I was doing. That would be the two biggest things that really, I guess, brought me back from just hating everything to do with work and to be honest, my personal life.
And I suppose, what I'm hearing as well is, it's not an all or nothing. Like if you just continue on, look, I'm going to get through this and crash back through into this and keep working at the pace I am with the clients and so on that I don't necessarily am not passionate about, you would have come to a grinding halt by pulling back in the way that you mentioned, having the right to say, no, this is just not for me at this time. And, there's a volume issue here that I'm not going to, you're able to, in your business, be more productive because
100%. Yeah. 100%. When I cut back on the work I was doing, I actually found the work I was doing was a lot better. In fact, I could charge more for it. I was working with bigger clients and making more money. So looking at the financial side of it, addressing the what was going on emotionally actually helped my finances. So I think that's a big lesson as well, that when you're grinding and there's a bit of a culture, especially on social media, the 24/7, 365 days a week, if you're not grinding, you won't get anywhere. I personally don't buy into that. I think there's definitely times, there's deadlines, there's big projects, there's definitely weeks where it's going to be a big week. That's part of being a business owner again, or part of even being working in general. But there shouldn't be months on end where you're coming home completely emotionally exhausted, because that will catch up with you.
You probably answered this at a level, but I'm interested in today and appreciating it as a journey where you've experienced significant burnouts, if I'm calling that, not once, 2 or 3 times. But what has changed to sort of get you in a better place as a generalization in terms of your daily business practices? Are there things you'd say, whereas I was doing this, now on a daily basis, kind of my habits are a bit more like this?
Yeah, so the most recent time it happened, which was at the end of last year, again, it wasn't as bad, but I think it was just a big couple of years of COVID and everything that went on and coming into Christmas and all that. But anyway, I guess my daily mental game I play with myself is, how do I feel? What am I doing? And now in my day-to-day work, I keep an eye out for the warning signs of that feeling or that sort of burnout process starting. And that's things like the physical sensations, like the headache and the fatigue, the tiredness, the withdrawing from friends and family. Like that, to me, it's like, if I get through a week and I'm like, oh, I've done that this week, it's like, okay, what's going on? Have a look at it. Do I need to go and see my therapist? Do I need to talk to another friend who's a business owner who I, have similar conversations with? And these are things that now when I catch them, it stops that snowball effect. The other thing I've done is, like I said at the start, I've really addressed who I'm working with and what I'm doing. And I made myself a goal to cut my workload down to 1 or 2 clients that I love working with, whose work I really care about. And in fact, both these people I work with now they just share so many values with me that if I am having a bad day, I can say to them, look, I woke up feeling terrible today. I'm not happy. And their response is, what can I do? How can I help? Do you want to talk about it? And that to me is a huge thing. Because prior to that, when I was working on my own, I didn't have anyone to talk to about that, apart from my therapist. But just to have another business person, especially someone I'm working with and for, say, hey, that's cool. What can I do? Do you want to have a conversation? Do you need to have a day off? Like that's a huge thing. And I think that's when I talk to other friends that have businesses that have, staff or business partners that are battling, I sort of say the same thing, like just go easy on them, be understanding. Even if you don't understand it, just tell them you're there to listen. And I think that's a culture that should be more presented on social media than the grinding 24/7, which is just to go easy on everyone, because everyone's, going through their own stuff, really.
Well, that 24/7 is not realistic, I suppose, in the end, as much as there's other things that are wrong with it. You kind of answered this one as well, but how do we, if we think about this more generally than you or even your business, you have any thoughts on how we, as a community of businesses, encourage and support the development of resilience and other small business owners? I mean, are there general points here you think we should be trying to do?
I think the biggest one is more of this, honestly, more conversations. The more, again, you go on social media and all the business content is, a lot of it's really good, but very little of it is about mental health. And projects like First Steps, and there's a handful of other projects I follow on Instagram that are, one off the top of my head I can think about is For All the Brothers, which is a mental health, I guess, project focused at tradies. So there's all these things that we can communicate out there, but for the business world, then it just needs to be more conversation about mental health, more tools and resources. First Steps is an amazing example, having tools, resources, therapy, all of that. It's amazing to have that, but without the conversations, it doesn't get used to its full capacity. We want, everyone from designers who work for themselves through to rural. I've spoken to rural, rangers that live in an isolated hut all year round who messaged me and said, crap, I've had that burnout thing happen to me, quite a few times, and I didn't know what it was. Thank you for articulating it. So the more conversations there is, the more everyone from all walks of life, whatever business they're in or whatever role they're in, should feel comfortable to look up a resource online at the least and ask for help, or talk to a co-worker and ask for help, or employ the help of a therapist or a specialist who, in most cases, you'd be surprised what one session with someone like that can do for your wellness. It can make a big difference. So sorry, that was quite a long-winded answer, but yeah, to help the business community, I just think as much as we focus on initiatives and stuff to promote making money, we need to do equally, if not more, stuff and content and projects and seminars and groups and clubs, all that sort of stuff. But you go there to focus on your wellness and mental health.
And if we do that, look, actually, one of the things I'm hearing from you is we will be better business people who are more productive.
Yeah.
We're on it. What do you do to prioritize your own well-being while running your business, balancing your personal and professional sort of responsibilities sort of now? What's Tim Kavermann on 19th of May 2023 like, as opposed to back 2-3 years ago?
I should be honest, I still have days where I'm like, I get to the end of the day and I'm like, that wasn't a very healthy day. I literally sat on my computer for 8 hours. But Tim today takes more breaks. This is on a typical work day or over a span of a work week, takes more breaks, is more social, makes an effort to talk to people every day, breathes better. That's a big thing I learned. Breathing can make a huge difference. And again, scheduling my work and making the work something that I care about and that I'm invested in, and working with people who share my values and are understanding and open about talking about this sort of stuff. It's that to me that makes all the difference. And I think for anyone else out there listening, who, whatever role you're in, whatever age you are, little changes like making sure you take your breaks, making sure you eat your lunch properly, and don't always eat your lunch in front of your computer, just little things like that. Going for a walk every day. That's exercise was a huge thing I'd been neglecting, and then I overdid it. I jumped straight into doing really heavy exercise, which actually made things a lot worse. And now I've dialed back to just walking my dog for half an hour a day, and the days I don't do that, I notice it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's good. I think message there for me, dare I say it, Tim, as well. I must admit, I'm going out with some colleagues for a quick cafe bite to eat after this. So it's not all at the desk in front of the computer always. I mean, I've got a bunch of great lessons there. I think what I've heard from you loud and clear, Tim, is resilience is a journey. It's good days, there's bad days. I think we got that message from Dr. Lucy Hone as well. Seek help. If we just hear what you've told us, you went to your GP. Obviously, you had misdiagnosed at a level you thought that was a physical health issue that you had going on, but it was burnout. And so that's that. But you've also, been, I put it this way, man enough. But for all of us men, women, to get therapy and have therapy and to do that over time, because of the first point really, which is that it is a journey. Learn to say no. I think there's something else you've told us pretty clearly for yourself, your well-being. It's okay to pull back, to have some balance. It doesn't have to be that kind of, dare I say, a macho 24/7 sort of view of things, and be thoughtful to catch where you've got problematic behaviors, perhaps extremes in the way you're doing things. Tim, before we go, any final thoughts you've got for us, things that we perhaps haven't covered that you think it's important about your journey and what you've learned to get across?
I think a big one actually that I actually went and saw my therapist last week because I wasn't having a very good week, and a big sort of light bulb moment for me when I was talking to her was a lot of the times I'm struggling and having a bad week and work sucks and personal life sucks. 90% of the time in my case, it actually doesn't. It's fine. It's the way I'm thinking about it. And addressing and catching those negative thought patterns is something I'm learning, that this is my, I guess, mission in life at the moment, is when I'm sitting here going, oh, this project's not going well. I'm not going to get it finished in time, or, oh, that person's annoyed me. Actually, have they really, or am I just tired or having a bad day? And I think sometimes if you're feeling like life is really hard, also address the way you're thinking about it, and can you change it? It's, yes, today's been hard, but that was a good project and it's going to be over soon. It's just little things like that, looking at what you think about. Sorry, I guess what I'm saying is what you think about makes a huge impact on how you feel. And that's in professional and personal life. So if you can start noticing the really negative thought patterns, that's a good start to making some really good changes in how you feel, even on the days when things are hard.
Totally right. Hey, look, thanks so much, Tim, for sharing your personal experiences and insights on the importance of resilience for small business today. We're really grateful for the knowledge and wisdom you've shared with our audience. To our viewers, to you listening, thanks for tuning in today and for engaging in this important conversation. We hope you found the webinar valuable and informative. I'd like to remind everyone this webinar was brought to you in partnership with business.govt.nz. If you're feeling the pressures of business and are in an area affected by weather events, we encourage you to apply for the one-on-one wellbeing support that you can be connected to in terms of a qualified registered provider that can support you in addressing the mental health and wellbeing pressures you may be facing, enabling you to navigate the challenges of both business and life more effectively. The New Zealand government has reinstated its one-on-one wellbeing support for businesses. Ongoing uncertainties place significant levels of pressure and stress on business owners and managers. I think many, we know, and we've just heard from Tim, feeling overwhelmed by the challenges they face before they can resume normal business operations. To address this, business owners, managers, and employees can apply for three complimentary and confidential one-on-one professional mental health sessions by filling out the simple application on the First Steps website. That's Firststeps.nz. Finally, this is a series we're running. I've told you we've had Dr. Lucy Hone. We've obviously just had Tim, and he's been great. And we invite you to join us next Friday as we hear from David Downs on Don't Humour the Tumour, from a genetically modified optimist, as he says. Thank you all for being here today, and have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Cheers, Tim.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, mate.